Hi, my name is Ken Lasseson. I wrote a microbiome prescription website, and I want to go through details of both the logic and the consequences of a regional addition. Now, the easy top layer is simply looking right here, and information from studies, citizen science, and we have all of the symptoms with bacteria association with 293 different symptoms. First thing you may notice is that it has here which lab. Is this from biome Ombre, or uBiome? And in some cases you see that biome has more matches and Ombre has less matches, etc. The long and the short explanation is that it depends on two things. One is how each lab interprets a sequence of RNA as being a bacteria. The result is the bacteria which is associated on one lab may be different than bacteria associated on the other lab, which is confusing if you try to keep to a false belief that bacteria is bacteria on every lab should report the same and same accuracy. No, it is a real mess. So here we have there, and we then for each one of the symptoms you can get the suggestions immediately. For example, suppose you have gum sores. Oh, actually, let's go up to, let's see what we have for COVID. We have long COVID, and here, and interesting biome site, which is not surprising because we have a lot of study. They did a special program getting a lot of samples in for biome site, and therefore we have 39 bacteria identified. We get nothing from any other lab, which is nice. So if we click here, and we get 39 bacteria listed. But here is a catch. This is at the genus level. If you go up to something like the family, which is above the genus, and do COVID again, we see we have 22. So we have good number there. If we go up one more, which is the next layer up, we now have 10. Generally, something which is a family, there are many families in each order, so as you go up the hierarchy, you will get less and less spelling out. So let's take a quick look at the 10. And here are the 10 which are increase or decrease, etc. Now, here we have the option of directly getting suggestions. So if you click here, and then you get by priority what is suggested to reduce it using data at the genus level. Now, you may say, why don't we use everything? Well, we can, but the problem is we end up actually cluttering up information. But basically, long and short is you can take a look at the genus associated species, the family, order, or even the class. Let's take a look at the class. And get a second to refresh. Now we're typing in COVID. And we find that there are 4 classes of the bacteria, which is these particular 4 ones are all increase, and 3 of them are very common. And what we find is some of them are pretty dramatic. Like, for example, we use percentiles. And what we do is take a look at everybody with a sample of a particular bacteria and looking over everybody without any symptoms. 10% should be in 0 to 10, 10% should be 10 to 20, 10%, 20 to 30, all the way up. What we did is we looked at 0 to 16, and then we looked at every end at 84 to 100. Both should have the same number. And if they don't, we know that there is statistical significance here. Here we have, guess what? We have absolutely nobody with the lowest 16 percentile of all of the people. We have 177 different cases where we have it above the 84th percentile. In other words, there's a strong signature there saying, hey folks, if you have over the 84th percentile of this bacteria, there's a real good chance you may have long COVID. And then we have here the chi-square. The chi-square is a statistical measure. Basically, it indicates the degree or the magnitude of the association. The bigger the number, the bigger the association. And so we see here we have a whopping for almost 500 for the association. Then we have 20, then we have 10, and we have 7. So this is a much weaker association than any of the other three, etc. So that is trying to explain how we detect it. We do very simple, very classic, dates back to the 1870s type of statistical analysis. We simply say how many are below 16, how many are 16 percentile, how many above 84 percentile. They are expected to be the same number, and when they are not, we can actually calculate the probability of just being a strong association, in which case it's whopping big. But also you can see visually the difference. For example, you say 53 and 60, and you say, okay, but that's not that much different. It's generally not, but it happens statistically to be still significant, but at a very low value, 7.97. And we go here, 27 and 65, much bigger, and you see the value now is much higher. Next one up is 10 and 48, almost a 5-to-1 ratio, still higher than, and here we have whopping big ratio. So that's the first thing. It shows the association, and what we end up doing is something which has been struggling to figure out how to do it. Often you will read and study that SIBO is associated with just bacteria, just bacteria, just bacteria, and just bacteria. Okay, but we get nothing from the studies with how associated it is. Here we now, with this method, we get how associated it with, and we can use that as in, okay, wait a minute, this one is the one which is more concerned, this one is less, etc. Not on opinion or subjectiveness, but purely on statistics, which is what I personally prefer, objective measurements. Okay, so this gives a background. This is where the numbers are coming from. This shows you how we get the numbers, and you can go and view things yourself. And as a FYI, if you are wanting to check the numbers, go over to the Citizen Science site, and you can download all the raw data, and you can duplicate what exactly I'm doing. So in other words, you can verify that the numbers being shown are indeed the numbers which are being shown. So there's no, trust me, the number is there, which is how I like to keep it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and take a look at a sample, and we're going to log in. And what we're going to do is you'll see we have special studies, which is where it is. And now what we have here is we use the same data, and what we do is, first of all, we apply everything at every possible level of it, and then see how much the factor is. Highest possible factor is 100. What I have here is about 93% of the weighing factors identify as male. Other things matches a pattern, but that's it. Down the bottom we have everything, Epstein-Barr, etc., and the list goes on and on, marking things. Again, this is brute force thing. Now, when we look at a particular level, like the genus, we have the numbers here. But if you go up and let's say do species, we find, okay, we have a bit more. We have the specific species being identified there, or we could go up to family, and we get number there. But here's the fun. When we move up to order, our numbers become whoppingly big. As in, these are all very strong associations. And what this means is that we can now identify with high reliability the bacteria which is causing all these symptoms, and how much each bacteria is contributing to it. So we can now go and get suggestions explicitly for this particular one. And what I'm going to do quickly is get rid of something and be right back. So we're going to go in, and because we have just very high match all the way down, we are just going to go and get suggestions. And I believe this program limits us to the top 10 strong matches. Again, part of it is we don't want to get too many cooks, too many chefs in the kitchen for trying to correct it. We want to identify the worst ones, the strongest symptoms which we have the highest amount of confidence we have identified the bacteria. We just do get suggestions, and we go over there and we'll get suggestions in a moment. Actually, what I will do is I will uncheck that one. I don't think the person wants to have a gender change. Okay, and there we go. And now we have the symptoms with the what food or whatever is there, and things to avoid, like for example, high fat diet to be avoided, blueberries actually to be avoided. Then we have a variety of probiotics suggested and everything suggested there. So that is basically how it's done. In general, my suggestion is you don't want to do just all by its lonesome, because you don't know what, because it is some ways too focused and you're excluding too much. What you really want to do is go back here and get my suggestions with all the symptoms. And now you can go over, and when you do it, what you will end up is you find you have a whole stack of suggestions, in this case 8, and now you can go and take a look at the consensus, take count, and here we have a whole bunch of things which every single one agrees you should be taking. Absolutely. And that is the fine grain, white grain, and what we have done is we use the Monte Carlo simulation or consensus way to absolutely get things done. Now, if we want to go back to, oops, wherever it is, wherever I, okay, here, I think this is it. Okay, give me a second to find the right page. Okay, I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to toss the kitchen sink at this time. I unchecked ginger mayo because we don't want to change it. If it aged in the top list, or things like Northern European, things which are not particular items we want to change. We have the association of which bacteria shift are seen with it, but you're really not interested in changing. So check the list, uncheck it, get suggestions. And there we have the lists. And if you're interested in what, you just click here and you can see which bacteria are being done. And all of these are the order levels. So those are the things being concentrated on exclusively. If you want to go back and say, okay, that's order, but let's actually do it down at the species level. And we go unmarked gen there on Northern European, unmark those. Notice the order has changed a bit, and we'll do everything again. And now we see here are the 10 species which are being identified, and here is the suggestions. In this case, we see we have some antibiotics, etc. In general, if you can species or strains, you will get antibiotics. If you up at the order level, higher level, most of the time you will not get antibiotics. Okay, so that is basically the long and short of it. So the special studies is sitting there. And you can pick what level taxonomy you want. Generally, what you want to do is pick the level that gives you a very, very high value, because those means you are really going to be targeting the layer in the bacteria group which are problematic. Over here, we have the list of symptoms and the value, and again, the totals are reflective of the number of matches and the significance. For example, here we have general fatigue, and if we do that as add a symptom, and we, oops, let's go back to special studies. And general fatigue doesn't show up there. It's some things we are getting. This is restricted to be focused. Okay, at this point in time, I think I'm going to shut up because I've been fighting COVID and I'm doing well with it, but my concentration time gets real short. Okay, so that's it. To recap, information from studies, special studies, shows you it. The bacteria for one lab will not necessarily be the same for a different lab. Some cases the changes can be dramatic. That comes out of how the bacteria is interpreted from RNA fragment. Each lab interprets it differently. And we then have it further compounded by the number of samples with annotations for each type of lab. So the result is things tend to be hit and miss, but in some cases you will find okay, we have 9 there, but for ombre we find, okay, that should be 78 here. I know why. I need to fix that, but okay, that's it. I'm going to shut up and have some fun.